This lesson is about translations. It's how you move a graph, or how a graph changes from the parent graph. So if we're talking about the graph y equals x squared, so quadratic graphs or parabolas, then this is the parent graph. The parent graph is at 0, 0. That's where the vertex would be. Well, this section talks about how we're going to change the graph from 0, 0, or change it from the parent graph. The first thing is, this is in vertex form. This black equation, ax minus h squared plus k, is in vertex form. So something that you need to know is k, this part right here, k, it tells you how y moves. The y values move. If k is positive, it's going to move up. If k is negative, the graph will move down. So if k is positive, it moves up, and negative, it's going to move down. So if k is negative, this is negative, negative. All right, next, this part in the parentheses here, this part, the way you change the graph or translate the graph is, it's called a vertical shift. Just kidding. It's called a horizontal shift. All right. So, this is how x moves. X is the horizontal axis. So x moves the opposite. Because the formula is negative, it moves opposite. So if this is the equation that I give you, then to find where the vertex is, here's how I think about it. I think about it, what would I put in for x that would make it be 0 in there? If I put 3 in for x, 3 subtract 3 is 0. So you do opposite of that negative 3, it's going to be positive 3. So that's the way you shift it. So this graph would shift to the right 3. The next part of this graph we're going to talk about is the A. We've already learned stuff about the A. The A does two things. First, it is concave up or concave down. If A is positive, the graph goes up, like this one. If A is negative, the graph goes down, or opens down. The other part that A has is A tells you how narrow or wide the graph opens. So if A is greater than 1, then the graph, it's called a vertical stretch, or the graph would go up more narrow than the parent graph. So it's kind of more narrow than the parent graph. So 4 would go up 4 over 1, up 4 over 1. I kind of think of it like slope. So this graph would be more narrow. Or it goes up 4 times as fast. So this graph, the vertex was 3, 5. 3, because that would make that 0, and 5, because it's up 5. And then the 4 would make it narrow. Another situation that can happen with A is A could be a fraction. This A is greater than 0 and A is less than 1. A would be a fraction. This would make fractions out in front make the graph open wide. Think about slope again. From this vertex, you go up 1 over 3. Up 1 over 3. This graph opens wide. Fractions make a graph open wide. Or it's called a vertical shrink. This one back here, the 4 in front, was called a vertical stretch. Like you stretch the graph up vertically. What you should be able to do after this lesson is you should be able to look at this graph and find the vertex. The vertex would be positive 4, or it moves to the right 4, and it moves up 1 in the y direction. So that's your vertex. Right 4, up 1. Then the 1/2 out in front, because it's positive, the graph is going to open up. Because this fraction, it's going to be wide. And then you should be able to graph it. Over 4. Over 4, up 1. And then up 1 over 2. Up 1 over 2. So it's going to be wide. Okay, this is a final equation I'm going to do. So this graph, the vertex is negative 4, 2. This graph moved to the left 4 and up 2. The A is negative 3, so the graph is going to open down because it's negative. 3 is going to make it 3 times as fast. So this graph is going to be narrow, narrow, or more narrow than the parent graph, the normal graph. Negative 4, 2. There's my vertex. And then I go down. Okay. What I did, I plugged in 0. Well, 0 gave me negative 46, so that's going to be way off my graph. So then I plugged in negative 3. I just plugged in one point to the left of negative 4. So negative 3 plus 4 gave me 1. Then I square. 1 squared is 1. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. So that point was on my graph. And I know these are symmetric. So that's how you draw the graph. All right. Thanks for watching.